In today's video English lesson, I thought I'd take you behind the scenes, my office, and tell you a little bit about my day and routines. My name is John Williams, and I'm a native speaker, English teacher, living and working in a town called Mikołów in Poland. And I have this one-man business. Also, I maintain a blog and this YouTube channel. And finally, I create video courses for a service called Skillshare. Now, I guess that means I'm pretty busy between teaching English lessons during the day and my content creation. And I intend to use this lesson to teach you how to talk more naturally about your day and how to express frequency like a native. You see, when you learn English from the very beginning, one of the first rules that you learn is that the present simple helps you express frequency. But this is only partly true because really there are three tenses, so two additional structures that you need to know how to use if you want to speak more naturally like a native. So I hope you're ready to take notes, and I'll see you in a presentation. I have my day organized into 3 blocks of time. In the morning, I generally teach from 8 o'clock until about 11. Now, I've got my own private office that I teach from, so I have students come in person or online. Occasionally, one of my early classes might cancel, so I might have some extra time on my hands in the morning. If my first lesson cancels, sometimes I'll just sleep in, but not always. Otherwise, I'll just come in at the usual time and get a head start on one of my projects that I'm working on. Now, I don't teach any lessons during my middle time block. This is the time I have reserved to work on my video projects and side hustles. That means during this time, I'm always working on my next YouTube video or doing some work for a video course, or I'm creating images for my graphic English group on Facebook. Obviously, today I'm filming the video for this YouTube lesson. However, I'm not some robot who just works all the time. Sometimes I'm taking little YouTube breaks to catch up on the latest news or sports news of the day. I also break for lunch before I start preparing my afternoon lessons. And from time to time, if I have to run some errands, I'll do it during this time block. Now, my third time block is for my late afternoon and evening lessons. I generally teach from about 3 or 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the evening. After that, I'll clean up and go home. Or I'll just leave the washing up until the next morning if I'm really tired. Now, oftentimes, I'll stop at the supermarket on my way home to pick up some groceries. And in the evening, after I've got home, I have different ways of spending time. Really, it depends on my mood. If I have some ideas for a new video or for a next project, I might do some writing to download my ideas for the next project. Additionally, I'm often watching a course on Skillshare because I'm still new at this video production thing, so there are so many things for me still to learn about it. Sometimes I'll just listen to a podcast, or if I'm in the mood for entertainment, and if I'm watching any shows, I'll put on the next episode of a TV series from Netflix. And at night, I usually turn in sometime between 11 and 12 midnight. Then, the next day, I wake up and do it all over again. Now it's time for some analysis. You will have noticed that I didn't use the present simple in every tense of my presentation. That's because we don't always use the present simple to express repeat actions, routines, and frequency. Let's just bring back that graphic and take some examples from my presentation to really show you the grammatic differences and how you can use them to speak more naturally in English. Now, at the base of the pyramid is the present simple that you know and love. We're not going to spend any time on the present simple because this is the basics. This is what you know. This is what every English teacher and course book teaches you, and that's not why you're here. You're here to learn level 2 and 3. So level 2 is the present continuous plus always. Now, we use this tense structure to show that we have an emotional connection to that repeated action or frequent repeated situation or occurrence. So that emotional connection will be conveyed in one of two ways. Firstly, that we feel some importance or that it's significant, this repeated action in some way to us. For example, very good advice that, a parent or teacher or coach is always telling me to do something important. Now, the second way that we convey this connection is through negative feelings, anger, frustration. So these are ways that we show our emotional connection to the repeated event. Now, at the top of the pyramid is the first conditional or the future simple. We use the future simple or first conditional for typical habits, typical behaviors that are often dependent on the situation. So when we explain further context that narrows the situation in which we would do this action from time to time, then the first conditional is used instead of the present simple. At this point, let's go a little bit deeper and bring some examples from the presentation and really just show you those differences. Let's go back to layer 2 and just examine a little bit more closely to show why we use a continuous tense instead of a simple one. The first thing to explain is that a simple tense is just that, simple. We don't offer any additional context. We don't say why we do this action, or we don't show any connection to this repeated action or frequent occurrence other than the fact that it repeats and that it recurs. So, in essence, a simple action doesn't really offer extra context. That's where the continuous comes in. When we add extra context or show why we do this repeat action or convey our emotional connection to this repeated action, then it becomes present continuous. we use the present continuous plus always when it's the emotional connection. So to express feelings that this repeated situation is important, and that's why we do it, or that we harbor negative feelings for that repeat situation, this is when we use the present continuous plus always. Now, let's just bring in some examples and show you from the presentation. The first thing you'll notice is where's always? There's no present continuous plus always, but another expression of frequency. That's because we can use any adverb of frequency or expression of time just to show that frequency, but the continuous expresses the emotional connection. So the main question is, which emotional connection does this example express? I think it's obvious that I feel this work is important to me. It's so important that I've blocked time in my day, every day, to do it. So in this case, it is the importance of the work that I do every day, why I express this in the present continuous. Now let's bring in that second example. This time, you tell me, why does this situation fall into my negative habits category? I mean, taking breaks to watch YouTube or listen to the news, I mean, how is that negative? Well, that's because for every minute that I spend watching a YouTube video, I'm not spending making a YouTube video. So perhaps I might feel a little bit guilty about doing something that I know I shouldn't be. So now I'll explain the first conditional, but first let's start with the zero conditional and what it means. We use the zero conditional for actions or situations where the behavior is always or generally true. What that means is when we have a condition and we react predictably in the same way all or most of the time, then we use the zero conditional, and this is the basis of the present simple for repeat and frequent actions. Because frequency happens more or less at the same time intervals every time. But what if we don't act or behave in the same way or react predictably in the same way every time we're in this condition? Then it's not always or generally true. So we don't use the zero conditional, we use the first conditional. So that is what I call the conditional present, because it's not about the future, it's about the present, but we still use the first conditional form with the future simple. So in essence, we sometimes use the future simple for a repeat present situation, but it conveys that repeat situation happens in limited situations, or if our answer depends or our behavior depends on something, or if we have a lot of choice, and sometimes we will choose this or sometimes we will choose that. So let's bring in some examples to show you how it was used in the presentation. If you remember from my presentation that I have a lot of options of what I can do in the evening, and this largely depends on what mood I'm in. Now we have many moods we might be in the evening, so we have many options of what we might do when we're in one of those moods. So for example, if I'm in the mood for entertainment, then I'll watch Netflix, TV series, or a movie. or if I'm in the mood to learn something, or I feel I need to improve my skills in some area, then I'll watch Skillshare. Or if, however, I'm in the mood to listen to the news or a podcast, then I'll do that. Or I'll do some writing if I'm in a creative mood, or if I have some ideas from my lessons that I teach every day. I've explained something to a student and I say, that would make a great YouTube video. Then I'll write those ideas down to express them in a future video. So there you have it. That's the big picture of how we use different tenses, the present simple at the base, present continuous, and the future simple or conditional, to really show a full range of expression and connection, to be more conversational and more natural in our conversation, so you can speak like a native. Now, to sum up, mastery of the first conditional and the present continuous are really important when it comes to improving your speaking skills, because if you want to speak like a native, this is something that we do conversationally to be more expressive. That's because we don't always behave in the same way. We don't always act or do the same things every single time. So we don't always use the present simple. So if you want to speak like a native, you need to master using these. Now, to help you do that, I have prepared for you a study guide that you can find over on my website, native1.pl. You can find a link to that in the description of this video. Download that study guide for free, and it will give you the transcript and show you the different tenses and how they were used to express different situations. You also get the vocabulary guide, some of the rich vocabulary and expressions to talk about routines. I also have that prepared for you as well. So head over to my website and take those things for free. Now, at this point, I would like to hear from you. So you heard from me about my day. Now I want to hear from you and get to know you a little bit better. So I'll bring up two questions. The first, what do you or what will you do if you have suddenly some free time on your hands? For example, if you're a student and the class is canceled, what will you do with that extra hour or two? Or if you're a working professional and you go home early from work, what will you do? Is it always the same thing, or does it depend? If it depends, try and use one of the structures that we practiced today. And the second question is, what's one negative habit that you have or that other people do, a pet peeve that drives you mad? And I'd love to hear from you about those typical situations that you face. So please put your comments down as a comment to this video. I'll be checking them regularly. So if you have something and I need to make a correction, I will do that. And one last thing before you go, please do me a huge favor and of course, like this video. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss when new content comes out right here at Native One English Learning. And with that said, I will bid you adieu until next time.